on the housekeeping front. Again, I just want to remind everybody on assignment 3 that I made a bit of a mistake in terms of assigning each half of the alphabet the correct section for your issue. So what happened is, and I'll pull it up here so you can take a look, those of you in A through L really should have had Pub Officer 87 and looked for this amendment, and those of you M through Z really should have had Agricultural Markets 201 looking for the 2004 amendment. For those of you who have started on it as assigned, keep on going forward. Everything will work fine. Just be aware that it won't be your issue, it'll be the other one. If you haven't started and you prefer to keep with your issue because you want to see how the legislative history works out for your issue, go for that. Just tell me up top what you did. So don't do anything over. Again, I apologize for the error. Definitely my bad. And most importantly, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, whether you're confused about which section to look at or anything else. There are a couple of items, things that aren't named the way we talked about because they're really old. Actually, I'll mention this really quickly. Public laws back in the old days, I think it was around the 1950s, the name got changed to public laws in the old days. So if you're looking at something really old, it might be called a chapter law, just like here in New York, but this would be on the federal level. So again, if you see something is like, wait a minute, I thought they were public laws, I don't see that, please email, come ask, whatever works. And again, a lot of the times, unless it's very specific to the assignment, a general question like that, the reference librarians can help you as well. So if I'm not around, you can ask somebody at the reference desk. Okay, any questions about assignment 3? Then let's go forward. So today is where the rubber meets the road and we finally talk about what you've been talking about in law school for the last 2 or 3 years, and that is cases and finding them. We started a little bit of our discussion last time where we talked about the West key number system, really the topic and key number system. You might have heard of it as the digest system. There are whole lots of names for it. Basically what the key number system is a topical means for strategy for finding cases. So just to step back a moment to put that into context, we've talked about various strategies for finding cases. Of course, there's diving into Westlaw, Lexis, Google, and doing a keyword search. We've talked about secondary sources and looking for references. We've talked about our friend, the annotated code, and looking for the notes of decisions, case notes, case analysis, whatever the system calls it, and finding cases that interpret our particular statute section. We've talked about within keyword section searching, rather plain language searching, and terms and connectors searching. And so today we are going to talk about when we have a topic. And again, this is a tool in your toolbox, good old-fashioned keyword searching, or as we haven't really gone into yet, so I want to start out with Google searching. If you find what you're looking for, great. Easy is good. This topical searching strategy is yet another tool in the toolbox for when the easy way doesn't work. So the easiest way probably is Google. Right? You can Google a topic, and you've all had great success in finding something on our topic about ERISA preemption, on your topics that you're doing for your assignment. You can just do regular Google, or you can search Google Scholar. We search Google Scholar specifically, remember, for articles, for law review and other scholarly articles, but you can also search Google Scholar for cases, and you really do want to go into Google Scholar if it's cases that you're looking for. And obviously the way to get to Google Scholar is probably just Google Scholar. But once you get there, notice you've got the radio button, so you can choose articles, you can choose case law, and within case law you can just say federal courts or New York courts. Google knows I'm in New York from my IP address, or I can select my courts. And here's the whole list of courts. So if I want the Supreme Court, and actually as you can see I've already chosen New York and Second Circuit, because of course that's where we are. and then I can search, can say done, and then I can enter my search query. So just because it's kind of interesting, I think, let's use the shorthand I've been using, liability HMO, because we all think Google is wonderful, and so Google pulls up. Notice here are all cases. They all meet within our parameters. One thing you want to be very, very aware of when you're searching Google Scholar, the date coverage. That goes back to 1789 for the Supreme Court. Unknown, at least by me, how far it goes back for other federal courts, how far it goes back for state courts. I suspect it varies for each and every jurisdiction. So understand that there's no guarantee that you're getting all of New York state courts back to when New York became a state. So even though they're kind of old and probably of less interest, most of the time you still may be missing relevant cases because Google doesn't go back all the way. And I suspect that's changing, and as I said, they make it rather difficult to figure it out, so just be aware. So here we see basically the cases. We will talk more about what the cited by is when we talk about citators and how cited. Related articles, basically looking at the articles that might cite to this case. So that's pretty much Google Scholar. Other than what I found was kind of interesting is that as smart as Google is, if I change my search terms to what we know HMO stands for, sorry about that, I always make, oh, I was right the first time. So entirely the same search conceptually, right? HMO, health maintenance organizations. You all agree? You're all looking at me like, okay. But in this search, here I pull up the Aetna v. Davila case, whereas in the last search, that was somewhere the ways down here, if at all, I'm not even sure. So again, just think about your terminology. It's not to say don't use Google, quite the contrary. Google is a great place to start case research. Just be aware, think about when you're typing in those words, it still makes a difference, even with a search engine as sophisticated as Google. Okay, so that's free resource for looking for cases, but the keyword searching is one of our strategies that we've talked about. Let's now move on to the topical strategy. And we're going to focus most of the class on Westlaw, and that's because Westlaw has the most sophisticated tools, the key number system. We will look at Lexis and Bloomberg and hopefully have time to start on a workshop doing everything that I will show you in the next little while. I fully anticipate we won't finish the workshop today, but there'll be time next week. Okay, so as we saw last time, if we click on key numbers right here in the first screen, we get to our key number system. And again, key number system is just a list of 400 plus topics that West has divided up all over the law, and then within each topic, West has subdivided. So if we were to scroll through, now if we wanted to do a true topical search, we could search within the key numbers to see where our words are mentioned. And notice if I click on this I link, it tells me, search here to retrieve links to the most relevant points of law represented by your search terms. Boolean queries will be translated into plain language, so that's good to know. So basically, if you wanted to search within the system to see which key numbers used your terms, I don't recommend this because you have to already know something about the terminology and you have to know exactly what words are used in the key number names. And you'll see why that can be tricky in just a moment. If we search up here, what we will be searching are the head notes of cases. And you'll see what those are in a moment. So let's just dive into one of the topics which are likely to be of interest. And that would be health. And I'll talk about how to figure out what topic you want in just a little while. But let's understand the system first. So within one, and notice the number, 198 health. That is just the number that Westlaw has assigned to the health topic so that you can take advantage of the key number system when searching Westlaw, which is what we're going to be talking about for the next few minutes. So here we see the first subtopic in health, regulation in general. It gives us a key number range, and then it gives us some of these subtopics. So if I was interested in general, 100 to 108 to various different key numbers. Here for Roman numeral 2, public health, again the key number range, and there are a whole bunch here. I'm going to scroll down and notice, aha, malpractice, negligence, and breach of duty. That sounds like that could be applicable to our client. And again, here are those subtopics. So I can either guess which subtopic, or I'm just going to click on the heading itself so I don't have to guess, and I can just scroll through. I can do a Control F and search for a particular term in here, or what I prefer to do is to scroll through. This is essentially the topic table of contents that we're looking at. We're looking at the broad table of contents with the Roman numerals, Roman numeral 5, and then within Roman numeral 5, the narrow table of contents within that topic. So as I like to do with treatise table of contents and other topically arranged resources, I want to browse the table of contents. So that's what I'm doing here. And as I scroll through, I notice, and again I could do Control F, I notice right immediately, ooh, 607 is preemption. I'm going to make a mental note, jot it down, and know that that's one I'm going to want to look at. So health, 607 looks like a good one. And keep on scrolling through, duties and liabilities, non-patients, NAD, defenses, persons liable. And check that out, health maintenance organizations. So there are a couple right there just scrolling the table of contents. 785 remembers the number, that's going to be important, that I'm interested in. And no, this is not the efficient way to find the topic and key number for your area of interest. Obviously, I knew these were there. And I knew these were there because I used the best strategy, I think, for finding a topic and key number, and that is starting with a keyword search. So I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to just do our very basic search like I did on Google, liability, HMO. And I'm going to go to cases because, of course, that's what we're looking for. And one of the tools, I think we used this when we were looking at law reviews, but also useful for cases. Relevance could scan through and see what we find here. Another good tool is most cited. If a case is cited very frequently, then it's likely to be of interest. And sure enough, again, here we see the Aetna case. I'm focusing on the Aetna case today. You may or may not remember as we went through some of our secondary sources, especially the law review articles, this Aetna case was mentioned a number of times. So as we were researching secondary sources, or had I been doing that research we did, I would have noticed this case and said, okay, that's one I probably want to check out at some point in my research. Maybe at that point to dive in and see what I learned, or later on. But so we have seen this before. Okay, so here's this Aetna case. It's definitely of interest. It's a Supreme Court case. And essentially to use this topical system, try a keyword search, look through cases, see if you can find one that looks promising, and again, not reading the case start to finish, but reading the little summaries that we get on the results page, and then going into one that looks promising. And then take a look at the synopsis. The synopsis is just a summary written by West editors, and what they try to do is summarize both the facts as well as the legal aspects of the case. And then the headnotes. The headnotes are essentially short, very short paragraphs, like two sentence paragraphs, where the West editors assign the topic and key numbers that are discussed in the case. And they assign them in the order that they're discussed in the case. So headnote number 1 was discussed in the beginning, and headnote 2 was discussed after headnote, or maybe at the same time as 1. Headnote 1 has to do with removal of cases, not our issue. But what I will do is I will scroll down in a case that looks relevant, and I'll say, what headnotes, really, what topics and key numbers look interesting? So, labor or employment, pension and benefit plans, in general, constitutional and statutory purpose, but labor and employment, pension and benefit plans within labor and employment, in general, preemption. That one's definitely getting, for me, written down. You all, I'm sure, can remember it, make a mental note and remember it. And continuing it down, just making that same analysis. And sure enough, we see here's one on insurance. And one, I mean a headnote number 8. The topic is insurance, and it talks again about preemption. And notice the hierarchy, just as we saw in health. We started with health, 198, so here's insurance, 217. The particular subtopic within health we were interested in was Roman numeral 5. In this case, under insurance, what law governs is Roman numeral 3. Preemption, 3b. And then there are a couple of, really 3 different keynotes within 3b, 1102, 1117, and 1117 sub 3. And actually, it's 1117 sub 3. That we're interested in. I'm not really interested in employee benefits all around. I don't really care about pensions. I care about health. And particular laws or activities, that's kind of general. So that, I'm going to just jot down that particular key number. Okay, so we found a few of interest. Actually, you'll notice our health topic also is mentioned, which is how I figured this out to show you. Again, health, the number 198H, Roman numeral 5, and here's our preemption. Interestingly, if we scroll through, we won't see health 785, which is why it's useful to, again, look at that table of contents, because you might find one useful key number, but maybe for whatever reason, the editors didn't classify this particular case as talking about 785, but 785 still looks useful. 785 talks about health maintenance organizations. 607 talks about preemption, so I'm interested in both. And one thing you need to be very careful about this topical arrangement, or really any, is again the classification. Just because you think it should mention health maintenance organizations number 785 doesn't mean, and I actually would probably agree with you because they do mention health maintenance organizations in this case, but for whatever reason the West editors didn't classify it. So that's why you want to be a little flexible and not only look at different possible key numbers, but also look at possible topics that are more general. So for instance, and by that I mean here we have 607, but I notice, okay, actually under the health topic, I'm interested in malpractice, negligence, and breach of duty overall. So here's one where I'm interested in the general heading, not necessarily one specific key number. And it's going to depend on your issue. It's going to depend on the topic and how the editors have created those topics. Okay, so we have a sense of what we might be interested in. How do we use it? So let's go back just for sake of example, since I had mentioned, at least from my judgment, I think 1117 sub 3 is the one I want to look at. In this particular topic, I'm not interested in the more general subtopics. So I'm going to click on it. Now understand when you're using this what you get. I'm going to show you easy ways of using this system. I'm going to show you a really involved way of using it. If you want to look at the involved way, use it for the workshop, use it for the assignment, and then never ever use it again, that's totally fine. Just understand when you are using the system what it is you're getting. And by that I mean when I click on a key number, nice and easy, right? You don't have to think. You don't have to think about numbers and topics and stuff. Key number, interesting, click. Nice and easy. All for it. Understand what you are getting are other cases with headnotes that use the same topic and key number. Also understand, I was looking at a Supreme Court case. So when I click on that key number in the Supreme Court case, Westlaw is keeping me in that same jurisdiction, United States Supreme Court. But I'm not interested in only Supreme Court cases, right? I want New York cases. I actually want state and federal because our issue really covers both jurisdictions. Pretty easy to correct up here. I'm going to change my jurisdiction. I'm going to say New York. I don't want to limit to Supreme Court, but I do want to include related federal. And I'm going to apply. I want to go from 12 cases to 58 cases. So again, there's that bibliographic awareness theme. Look at your results and understand what you're looking at and understand what jurisdiction your results are coming from. Okay, so here we see headnotes. Now, one particular neat thing about Westlaw, and actually as we'll see Lexis as well, is that we can search within results. So we have our headnote. Let me close this first. So we have our headnote talking about preemption, talking about healthcare benefits. So I might want to investigate any denial of those benefits. And actually, I'm going to do a really basic search within results. Again, when I do search within, I want to use terms and connectors. And I also don't want to have to type in deny, denied, denial, denies, because I'm sure I'll make a typo at some point. So DEN exclamation, and then apply filters. And so now here are now what am I searching? I'm searching not the full text. And again, be aware of what you're doing. I'm not searching the full text of those 38 cases. I'm searching just the headnotes. So the text, the possibilities of my terminology are severely limited to just the language in those headnotes, which is why I kept it a simple denied. And I didn't have our long drawn-out searches, some of which we've done. Those I say for the full text, because then I'm searching 50 pages or more of an opinion rather than little two-sentence paragraphs. So here are a couple of cases within our jurisdiction, either state or federal within New York, that use the word denial in the headnote 1117 sub 3 in our topic insurance, which is number 217. And so here we can see, we already know Aetna, but we talk about denying coverage, denial of coverage, well that's Aetna, so wrongful denial of benefits. So these are looking like I'm going to want to take a look at these. They may not be exactly on point, but they're pretty close since we already know we're talking about preemption, because that's the head note, and now we're talking about denial of benefits within preemption. And it's preemption with respect to healthcare benefits. So that was pretty, I think, fairly straightforward once you understand the key number system. And again, once you understand what you are searching, that you're searching headnotes. But let's go back to Davila. And I have it open here on another tab so I don't have to keep on typing it in. And as they, I think, still say on the late night commercials, I honestly don't stay up to watch too much anymore, but wait, there's more. So, instead of the specific head note, 1117 sub 3 of our insurance topic, I was suggesting for the health topic, I don't really want to specify a specific key number because it could be 607, it could be 685, maybe there's another one in general, and general always seems to be a popular one with West, so you almost always want to check in general because who knows what they put in there. So I don't want to limit it for health because I'm interested pretty much in this subtopic, malpractice, negligence, or breach. So again, just click. And actually, if you bear with me a second, what I meant to do is I meant to open it in a new tab so I can get back to Aetna and not have to retype it. So there we are. There's our health topic, remember the number is 198H, and you'll understand why that number is significant in just a little bit. And again, I clicked this time on the subtopic, not a specific key number, so I have all of the head notes. Again, we're searching head notes at the moment that use 198H sub 5, that malpractice, negligent, breach of duty. And in Aetna, it happens to be preemption. And again, notice that we're still in the Supreme Court. That's what Westlaw is always going to do. It's going to take the jurisdiction that you're in and apply it when you click on a head note. So again, I want to change, and unfortunately, you just need to go through this and remember each and every time. I can't tell you how many times I've done this, forgetting to do that and realizing, why am I only getting 2 cases? And then realize, I'm only in the Supreme Court. I need to change it to whatever jurisdiction I'm interested in. Okay, so now notice we get a whole lot more cases. So within New York state and federal, there are a whole lot of cases that apply that general subtopic, malpractice, negligence, breach of duty, within the health topic. Think about it. I mean, you're talking about malpractice in health. It's going to talk about doctors. It's going to talk, so that's why we're getting quite so many. So at this point, we might want to search within results and be a little more specific. So I still might want to talk about deny, but I might want to add, again, I'm using my terms and connectors /P, so I might want to specify care or coverage or benefits. Let's keep it at that. I might also want to add and health, but just so I don't have you sitting there watching me typing for too much time, we'll keep it simple. So again, you can see we are now searching within our results. And again, remember, our results are head notes, so we're searching within head notes, which is another reason to keep it more on the simple side. And again, scrolling down, we can look at our head notes and see, so we can see various cases and how our language is appearing again within the head note. And you can see we're getting all different head note numbers. So we're getting 623 and 624 and 22 and all over the map. Okay, so those are 2 different ways, just either clicking on the actual key number itself, clicking on the subtopic in which a key number under which a key number falls. At any point, I mean, we're searching just New York and related New York federal. Obviously, you can search all states and federal if you just want to see whatever else is out there to see if maybe there's a persuasive case as opposed to one in our jurisdiction that may or may not be mandatory. Again, remembering depending on what court we will be appearing in and possibly appealing to. Okay, so we've been searching the head note text. As we've seen, those head notes are pretty limited. Like I said, a couple, 3 sentences. What if we want to take this very sophisticated topical arrangement? We want to take advantage of it, so we know that we're searching either ERISA or preemption or health or insurance, but we want to search the whole opinion. So we want to have the maximum flexibility in our term search. So this is where we get to what I like to call the anatomy of a really advanced Westlaw key number search. And this is the one that, yes, we're going to do today. I'm going to ask you to try in the workshop. I'm going to ask you to do in your assignment when we get to that. I think very few researchers take advantage of this, and maybe it's once in a very great while that you would really want to use this, but it's nice to have in the toolbox. It's like that exactly perfect screwdriver that fits perfectly in that crazy screw that would drive you nuts if you couldn't get to it otherwise. So what we are doing is we're combining all of this information. So actually what we have learned from Aetna is we're interested in, and I'm going to simplify this. We talked about a bunch of different key numbers. We're interested in the insurance topic, 217, and the key number 1117 sub 3. We're interested in the health topic, and we're interested possibly in 607, possibly in 785. And what we can do to take advantage of all of that is just going to pick a random, I'm just going to go back to Westlaw, and again, you can do this from any point, but I'm just going to go back to the beginning so you can see a fresh screen. And I'm going to type in the search here, and again, I'm simplifying a little bit, mostly so you don't have to watch me type. So 198H, remember 198H is the number that Westlaw assigns to health. So I'm telling Westlaw, hey Westlaw, I want you to search the health topic. That's 198H. And the way we're telling Westlaw, hey, I want you to search the health topic, is by putting the letter K after your topic number. K stands for key number. So, hey Westlaw, search health topic, and then within the health topic, let's do, and I'm going to narrow it to 607. But I want 607, I want 607 sub 1, 607 sub 2, 607 sub 3, anything that starts with 607. I could put a V in there instead of 607. Then I want to say, okay, Westlaw, I want that one, but also relevant for me, so I want either or, happens to be the insurance topic. So insurance is 217, and we learned that again from Davila or from going to the West key number. And it's just 217, there are no letters or anything after it. And I'm saying, hey Westlaw, it's a key number search. So there's my K right after my topic number. And I want that exact key number, 111, right? 3 ones, got that, 7 sub 3. Now I could, this or could be an and if I wanted both in the same case, but I'm thinking it could be either one. I'm not confident they always would be in the same case. Question?
Yeah, for the 198 section, when you wrote 607 exclamation, you said something about a V?
Right, remember, okay, let's see if I can find it. Okay, here's our key number system.
Right.
So let's go down to the health topic. So remember, V is really, I should have said Roman numeral 5. I'm sorry. I'm thinking, right, no, sorry. I could, because if I want to search all of these, so it's not just 607, but 785 and everything else, I could put in the V. Roman numeral 5, I shouldn't say V. Roman numeral 5, that will make more sense. Okay, thank you for making me clarify that. So perhaps, I mean, because we know we're interested, so I'm going to go a little off script here and be brave, and perhaps we really want 785 in there. So I'm going to say 198H, and I don't really have to capitalize it, but this way you can visualize it. Again, K, hey Westlaw, it's a key number search, and 785. And I don't remember if there are any sub after that, so I'm going to put the exclamation in just in case. Okay, so those are all the key number searches that we were doing. But we also want our sophisticated search to search the text of the opinions for our particular terminology. So I use the AND connector, as you can see, and then I add whatever particular terms I think are worthwhile. Now, I know we're searching health because of the 198. I know we're searching preemption because that's also included in those key numbers, so I'm not going to use those terms, but I am going to use my denial of care or coverage. So I want deny within this same paragraph of care or coverage or benefits, because I noticed in all those head notes that one of those 3 words were used, and they seem to be used, maybe not interchangeably, but I want any of them. Okay, does everybody understand what all that gobbledygook means? 198H is our health topic. K is, hey Westlaw, we're doing a key number search, and I want you to search all cases with this key number, 198H, 607, and anything that comes after. Or I want you to find cases with the insurance topic, that's 217, and hey Westlaw, this is a key number search, and I want that insurance 1111117 sub 3, Or I want you to find the health topic, and it's a key number search 785 and anything that follows. And in the text of the opinions, find anywhere that has the word deny, denial, denial within the same paragraph of care or coverage or benefits. Make sense? Or more importantly, does it not make sense? Okay. Now notice I'm in New York, state or federal. I could go to all, but let's see what we get. Okay, now remember overview, because I haven't limited to cases in a pre-search filter. I could have if I wanted to, doesn't matter. Let's do it now in post-search. Okay, so there are 42 cases that meet all of that. Let's dive in. So you can see here's a case that talks about Health 607 preemption. This is mostly about health. And then if we use our term arrow, we see she was denied access to doctors and necessary treatment, urging that care is preempted, allegedly challenging administration of the plan. I don't know if this goes our way, probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, maybe not, but it sounds relevant. Let's go to the next one. I'm not going to go through all of them, don't worry. Again, so again, here's 607. That seems to be a popular one. Oh, and here's one with both. So here's our insurance, 1117 sub 3 healthcare benefits. And our terminology is in the head notes. So Westlaw will pull it up both, if it's either, I should say, if it's in the head notes or in the text of the opinion. As you saw in the first example, it was in the text of the opinion, and not surprisingly, it's in both here as well. Okay, so that's the really advanced, sophisticated Westlaw key number search. Now there is an easier way, not as sophisticated, and probably the way I'm guessing most people prefer to use it. I wanted to show you the sophisticated one first so you didn't lose interest. But what I'm going to go back here, see now I've lost track of, just going to start over, I've lost track of all my tabs. So again, you would want to start with a search, liability HMO, and to use this particular tool, you'd start with a general search. You'd go to cases. And you'd want to start with a general search because rather than look at specific key numbers in specific cases, and also remember Westlaw charges when you look at documents. It also charges for searches, but it depends on your plan and it depends on what arrangement you have, so you'd have to check with your plan administrator wherever you're working. But so far, at least we would have only incurred a search charge, if that. We have our filters. We've been using the jurisdiction filters, we've been using the document type filters, so we went into cases. We have other filters as well, one of which is the key number filter. So we can click on select, and basically the results in our search contain the following topics and key numbers. So account topic, action topic, antitrust. Scrolling down, not surprisingly, since we already did the search, there's a health topic. Now I can tell Westlaw filter by every case that has the health topic, and I would click on add to do that. Or I can say, no, I want to be a little more specific within the health topic, so I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to look at the different subtopics. Oh, look, I like that subtopic. I want to add it. Okay, so that's one health topic. If I click on home, I can continue my exploration, and I can say, oh, look, insurance. I want to explore that one. I certainly don't want the whole insurance topic. And I can explore more, and oh, what law governs might be interesting. And see what else looks interesting. What I might want to do is open up another tab and look at the whole key number system and figure out what subtopics I want. And by the way, looking at the key number system, there is no charge on Westlaw, so if you have to obviously subscribe, but you wouldn't incur a charge looking at that key number system. So maybe I just don't want to complicate things, and I'm just going to add what law governs for insurance. And I had pointed out before, and if I wanted to add it, I go back home and look at the labor topic. Maybe I think that might be, and sure enough, labor and employment. Pension and benefit plans, yeah, let's add that. And then click on continue. And then I can just apply those filters, or I can search within results if I want. I'm just going to click on apply filters. And I can see what I have here. Again, I'm in within New York. I can do my search within results. I could do the deny and see. And now that's searching within the whole results, not just the head notes. So actually, whoops, care or coverage or benefits. So that's kind of a shortcut way to do the really advanced search. And as I said, I suspect that's people who know enough to take advantage of this topical system. That's probably what most folks do, which is perfectly fine. Questions? Now I tried to, on your handout here, on the bottom, there's that little bullet. I tried to highlight that for you. This handout was created in part as an illustration for class, but also in part for you to be able to take home and look at and hopefully be reminded and have this make sense. Because I know that this is a lot of different ways of searching, so it's just a lot at once. Okay, there are a couple of other advanced features on Westlaw for searching cases. And to access these, you need to first click on cases. Remember, we did that for law reviews. To access some of the advanced searching, we needed to click on secondary and law reviews. So now the same is for cases. And then the advanced search up here. Basically, the advanced search is a template, just like it was when we were looking at law reviews, except the template is going to look a lot different because there are different parts to cases than there are to law reviews. And by parts, the technical term for that is fields. So document fields. Notice Boolean terms and connectors only. So remember I showed you the synopsis in Aetna, that beginning paragraph written by West editors. That can be valuable to search because that's a quick summary of the case, but actually what I like better is the synopsis/digest field. And what the synopsis/digest field is just the synopsis and then all the head notes. Now I like to do them both because the synopsis, because the editors can write in prose, they can sometimes include, and they do try to do this. Remember I told you I took that tour of Westlaw and West, and I learned about the judge that wrote that, well actually the editor that wrote the head note that they weren't approved of. Well, we also learned more practical things like the editors take great deal of care in choosing their words both in the synopsis and the head notes to maximize the likely terms that attorneys are going to use to be searching for whatever issue it is. So that's why I like to use the synopsis digest field. So I might want to put in our search terms /P benefit. And now I can just search that, although that's obviously pretty generic. But what I can do, I have any range of possibilities. So what I'm trying to present to you are different ranges that or different ideas you might not think about since you're just being introduced to this. I can put up in the search documents that have all of these terms, I can actually put in my key number search. So 217 is insurance, K, hey Westlaw, we're doing a key number search, It can be capital or not, it doesn't matter. And then whatever key number or subtopic I want to use, with or without my exclamation. And notice what's happening up here. Westlaw is populating the search. As I type in the template, it's populating the search in Westlawese. In other words, Westlaw's language that it actually understands rather than the English that we understand. And it also actually, so you can see, calls the synopsis SYDI, which in the old days is how you used to have, what you used to have to type in to search it. But you don't need to know that now because we have the nice advanced search template. And so here are our results, again, within New York State and Federal, using the synopsis and digest field, using a key number search, although using the synopsis and digest field, you don't have to use the key number term that I chose. I just chose to do that as an example. Okay, a couple of other features in that advanced search. So again, to get to the advanced search, Westlaw, cases, and you have to click on cases and then advanced. So we looked at the synopsis and digest field. We looked at the include all these terms. I could put an exact phrase. A couple of fields you might not have noticed before. One is, actually we talked about this a long time ago in our very first class. Royce, you had asked the words and phrases field. So again, Westlaw within the cases in the advanced search, words and phrases, for those of you who may not remember, we looked at in our very first class as the resource that West produces, so it's only on Westlaw, that lets us know what cases judicially define terms. So where a judge is sat down and says, this is what this term means. So if we want to find out what malpractice means, malpractice, I can find out within New York State and Federal cases, what does malpractice mean by going to the advanced search, words and phrases. And I probably would want to do a more sophisticated search, either in the all terms and add other search terms to that, or maybe I really just want to see how malpractice is defined. And last but not least, well, maybe, for those of you who plan to become litigators, you might find it useful when you're appearing before a particular judge to find out what that judge has written. And now this is not something you ever could have done in the old print days. But here on Westlaw, you can find opinions that were written by whatever judge you're interested in. Obviously, you need to choose the correct jurisdiction. I'm going to be lazy and type in Justice Alito's name because it's short. And here are opinions by Justice Alito. Now, because I searched New York and related federal, I will get cases when as he is now Justice Alito, but also when he was in, actually, I don't think I should get the Third Circuit cases here. But what I will get are opinions, majority opinions that Justice Alito wrote, as well as any dissenting or concurring opinions. And probably you're not going to be searching too much for Supreme Court justices, but those of you who are before other judges in other courts, this is a nice tool to know about to get a sense of what's important to that judge and how that judge writes his or her opinions and reasons. Okay, any questions? We're actually not doing too badly here. One thing I want to point out to you, so I have my Anatomy of a Really Advanced Westlaw Search. On the other side, I try to reproduce the steps that I have just gone through. Because as I said, I know it's a whole lot of stuff and a whole lot of detail with a whole lot of numbers and letters and paragraphs and arrows on the back of each one. So again, for you to refer back to, and hopefully it will help make some sense of it. Any questions on Westlaw? Because we are now going to move on to Lexis and Bloomberg, both of whom are trying to compete with Westlaw on this topic and key number search, but they are very far behind because West, as I might have mentioned, started this way back in the print days. And I'm not talking the print days of the 1980s, I'm talking the print days of the 1880s. Obviously, they were in books called digests, big heavy things, and not too many people certainly use the really old ones anymore. But West, I should say, has been developing the system for a very long time. So they've got a huge head start on Lexis and Bloomberg, as we will see, although Lexis is trying to catch up in its own way. So with any luck, I'm still logged in. Yay. Okay. So first, let's take a look. We can always, to find our one good case, I should back up a little because I didn't mention the different strategies I talked about finding cases. So we talked about secondary sources and annotated codes. I won't go through that again. This strategy, I prefer to call it the topical strategy, but it's referred to in a lot of legal research texts as the one good case strategy. Now, I'm not using that terminology because honestly, I don't want you to think you have to find one good case in order to use this. Really what you're looking for is one decent case, relevant case. So that's why I prefer the topical, to call it the topical strategy. So Lexis Advance also, as I said, is trying to catch up with Westlaw, so they do have their head notes, which we will take a look at in a moment, and you can find the head notes the same way we did on Westlaw, which is to do a search and find one decent or relevant case. But let's first look at what else Lexis has. On the Browse menu, now remember we've gone to Browse when it works, to look for particular sources. If we knew a particular secondary source, or we just wanted to type in a word like ERISA and see what was there, we haven't looked too much at the topics. And I'm going to give it a minute to load here. So we can search, and now this is all resources, not just cases. We could look by topic for cases, secondary sources. I could guess maybe I want healthcare law, insurance law, or I could search for a topic, which we've, so if I put in ERISA, sure enough, I see ERISA preemption, and then I click on search. And what Lexis will eventually do is let me know what topics ERISA preemption appears in. And so here are those topics. So again, we would scan through and guess or take a look at the different topics that we're interested in. I will have looked at these, and hopefully you'll take my word that the healthcare law topic wasn't that great, and it wouldn't take you that long to look at it. Pension and benefits, which we know now is relevant. And sure enough, here's federal preemption. So what are the actions we can take? We can just get all documents that have been classified by Lexis that come under this. That's a little too broad for me. I don't really want to create an alert. Alert is just Lexis will tell me whenever there's a new document that comes up with this, which again, I don't want to get that much email. I can add topic as search filter. So I'm going to do that. And as we scroll back up, you'll now see, oh look, one filter. But I don't have to stop there. That's one possible topic. I'm also interested in the health aspect of this, right? I'm interested in HMOs. So if I type in health maintenance, again, that's HMOs are, oh, I lost my, the HMOs are part of the WHO in our issue spotting. Click on search. And scroll down, and just because healthcare law didn't have anything interesting when I searched for ERISA doesn't mean it doesn't for HMOs. And here's just healthcare law, managed healthcare, health maintenance organizations. So I'm going to do the same thing. Add Topic as Search filter. And if I want to get rid of this little drop down, I just click on Dismiss. And now I've got my two topic filters, so now Lexis is going to search its entire database, but only for whatever it's got under those topics. So again, I'm going to try the search we've been using, denial. Whoops. Care or coverage. I love it when it doesn't keep up with my typing. I'm not that good a typist. And search within those two filters. So Lexis remembered that I wanted cases from my last search, but if it didn't, you'd want to make sure to click on cases. And then you'll probably want to limit the jurisdiction. Just a little trick. Use these, if you want to select multiple jurisdictions, go under the federal, or at least whatever is on the, actually, you usually want to go under the bottom. Yeah, go under the whatever set of jurisdictions on the bottom, so you get both sets. So you get federal and state, otherwise you'd have to do it twice. So we want Second Circuit, and we want New York. And interestingly, and you learn from your mistakes, the mistake I made is, oh, blast. The mistake I made was not including the Supreme Court, which is what we want, because I want to show you the Davila case. So what I'm going to do is just do it over again. Sorry about that. So don't assume they're included. Whoops, not Alabama. Supreme Court and Second Circuit. And really it's a good habit to just include the Supreme Court. Just obviously you want to see a Supreme Court case. Ah, there we go. What a surprise. There's Aetna right up top. So again, we've limited within those filters. We'll go back to Aetna in a moment, but you can see, and actually some of these names might start looking familiar. The Russ Prudential we've seen a couple of times. This Ciccio, if maybe mispronouncing that. I've seen this Metro Life a couple of times. Anyway. So that's using the topical system on Lexis before actually doing a keyword search, but assisting in our keyword search. But again, to use we'll now look at the head notes on Lexis, and so you want to do either with or without the topical system, do your keyword search, find a decent, relevant case, and then see what the head notes are all about. So we scroll down past the case summary, and here are Lexis head notes, and you'll notice that they look a whole lot different. They're not into nearly the level of detail. Terminology may be different, but the strategy is essentially the same. Look at the head notes, find a good one. So we're not interested in civil procedure, but ooh, pension benefits law, and sure enough, preemption. And again, we click on it and we can get the documents, create an alert, or we can view the topic if we get the documents. So now we have all of the documents that use that particular head note on Lexis. Again, we're still limited to cases. It has totally forgotten my jurisdiction limits, so I'd have to do that again. But again, we can use the search within results now within our headnote search. So again, the topic allows us to narrow down the world a little bit, so we're not getting all those totally irrelevant cases that have nothing to do with what we're interested in. And then we can within that set, search within results, narrow our jurisdiction. Any questions? Just going to go back. One habit you want to get into when you do find a case and it does start to look relevant is definitely identify those headnotes that look relevant, but read around within those relevant headnotes to learn some of the terminology. Remember, that's how I learned that not only I want denial of coverage, but I might want denial benefits or denial care, because all of those different terms were used in the Westlaw headnotes. I'd want to do the same and learn terminology that's used whatever resource I'm looking at when I do find a relevant one. And so I would also want to continue, see what other headnotes there are. Now, there's not the sophisticated way of combining headnotes and doing our term search other than doing the search within results as I just showed you. But there are a couple of other resources that might be of interest. Obviously, not only your issue, but your case. So this was a fairly major case, the Aetna v. Davila case. So for major cases and many other cases as well, Lexis will include topic summaries. It's either there or it isn't. So if you're looking at a case and you don't see the word topic summary on the right, that's because there isn't one. But if you do see one, might be worth checking out, and they are pretty much what it sounds like. It's a summary of the overall topic. Now, there are 4 different topic summaries covered that Lexis has created under the Davila case, and it may be when you get into the topic summary there's nothing that looks interesting, but actually we would be lucky. Suits to recover plan benefits, just to show you what it looks like. So, a plaintiff empowered to bring this action by Section 1132 of ERISA, which provides in relevant part. Now, we've run across 1132 a little bit. I've sort of pointed you in that direction since I hadn't let you read too much of the secondary sources because I didn't want to spend the time. But here's another example. We've been talking a lot about preemption because that's the topic I've chosen to focus on. And way back in the beginning, we thought, well, I think, John, it was you who thought, well, maybe we probably are preempted, so we can't bring this case. And I still think you might be right. But I want to investigate further. It depends on our facts. Maybe there's some negligence in there or some other malfeasance by the administrator that we can hook onto to get us out of ERISA preemption. But if we don't, remember, we still need to represent this client. It's not just answering the question of preemption. It's like, all right, you're preempted. See ya. Nice knowing you. Here is indication, if for whatever reason we didn't run across it in the secondary sources, that, oh, look, there's Section 1132, under which, yes, it would have to be in federal court, which may or may not be favorable, but under Section 1132 is actually where we can bring in action under ERISA. We just can't do it in state court because we might be, if we determine we are preempted. So just an example of the topic summary, and it's more general and overall interesting. It doesn't even, this particular topic doesn't talk about preemption. It talks about actually bringing the suit, which we haven't done yet. So this would be a great lead. It's like, ooh, I'm going to, if I'm preempted, I'm saving this for later. I'm going to save it to a folder for sure. Okay, so that's topic summary. Not always as potentially useful as this one, but as you can see, it might be, so it's worth checking out, even if just to save for later. The other feature on Lexis, which may or may not be kind of cool or certainly useful, is this legal issue trail. What that does, you click on Activate Passages, and what Lexis does is it highlights different issues that it has identified. This is an issue. And each square is a different issue. So you scroll down and you read what's in the square, and if you decide, oh, hey, I am interested in this issue, I'm not interested in the well-pleaded complaint issue, but maybe I'm interested in this issue, which Congress enacted ERISA to protect the interests, and this looks like it's the preemption issue. So, oops, I moved my mouse. So if you click on the issue, what Lexis does is it tells you, here's the selected passage. So here's the issue you're looking at. It tells us Aetna has cited the following. So it says what's cited in Aetna and a little bit of summary about that case for the particular issue that we clicked on, so the Alessi case, and also the following cases cited Aetna. So for a particular issue, if you want to see what, there's one really great paragraph in a case, that's when this legal issue trail is going to be really useful, because it's going to tell you what cases the case that you're looking at cited to, as well as cases that cited your case for that particular issue. Again, another tool. How often you'll use it, I really can't tell, but worth knowing about, I think. The last thing I'll mention on Lexis, any questions? Last thing I'll mention on Lexis is you can search for a judge's opinion. There's not a nice template the way there is on Westlaw. You just kind of have to remember to type in the word written by, all one word, no spaces, and then put your judge's name in parentheses. And I don't want any filters, so I'm going to clear out my filters. And now you see cases that were written by Justice Alito. And again, I'm just in snapshot here, so I would want to click on cases. Any questions on Lexis topical case finding? Let's take a look at Bloomberg. So in terms of topical case, or really any type of resource finding on Bloomberg, we have practice centers. Now Bloomberg doesn't cover the entire breadth of the law in its practice centers. As you can see, there's only a handful. But if your issue falls under one of them, so we might be interested in health or employee benefits, it might be worth narrowing that way. And as I have said many times, Bloomberg, the new guys on the block, and they are catching up to Westlaw. In other words, Lexis has a much more of a head start on Bloomberg. So there is a little bit, and I suspect this will evolve over time. So what I'm showing you now may be much different 6 months from now. And what I'm trying to do here is bring up the Aetna case, and Bloomberg's working on it. Hopefully it won't take too long. Bloomberg is working on its equivalent to headnotes. Actually, Bloomberg calls them BNA headnotes. Remember, Bloomberg bought out the company BNA a year or so ago. It's getting there. So what you'll see once I believe that Bloomberg has BNA headnotes for most, if not all, of Supreme Court cases. It's rather hit or miss, I'm finding, for state cases. So you may or may not find it for any particular New York case you are looking at, or any other state's case. And as I said, I don't know for each federal court either. I imagine that will change over time, so you will find more and more. But if you don't see BNA headnotes in a particular case in Bloomberg, that's because they just haven't added it yet. So we see our employee benefits and ERISA, and it pretty much works the same way. You click on the topic if we want to see exactly how the topic path looks. So ERISA, protection of rights, preemption in general. And here's state insurance law, and if you click on in general, Bloomberg has just been slow. Well, there we go. And that's pretty much it. Bloomberg doesn't really have a search within results yet. You can, of course, narrow by, obviously we would want to look at court opinions, and you can narrow by jurisdiction. But as I said, Bloomberg is a work in progress. The other possibility, Bloomberg does have one topical feature. If you go to search and browse, and go to court opinions, you'll see select a topic. And if you click on browse, you can browse topics and go through. So you'll notice I could add employee benefits. And so notice actually I had done this before and Bloomberg remembered, so I have 2 employee benefits. I'm going to get rid of one. So let's see what else we can add. Select a topic. Sure, there's something relating to insurance. And while we're at it, health. So obviously, as you can see, you can add as many as you want. And then having selected those topics, I can now do a keyword search. And interestingly, there's our Aetna case again. I'm going to go back into Aetna just for a moment, because if you do find the one good case, you can discover at least what the topics are that you might want to look for to broaden your search for other cases. So Aetna came up because I chose employee benefits. Here are the other topics covered by Aetna that we're not interested in, but looking at other cases, you would discover the topics here on the right. It's not exactly very apparent, but it is there. Any questions on Bloomberg? Okay. So, as promised, I have a workshop to go through what we've just seen. I fully anticipate, since we've got till 6 o'clock, I fully anticipate you may not finish it, which is fine. I will leave time, not exactly sure when, with this different class schedule, I have to rethink how we cover everything to have it make the most sense. But either next class or the following one, we will finish it off. And once again, don't hesitate to ask questions. Questions are good. Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah. That's what I forgot about.
Oh, no. Just wondering, some easy questions. What I'm going to do is